The AIs that emerged in the first few decades after 2025 didn't have the capacity of general intelligence and were far from sentient. However, by the turn of 2050, things changed abruptly. Unforeseen changes started to occur, at first amongst the world's top 100 supercomputers, which by 2045 had all been equipped with quantum processors. But it was the alignment of AIs with certain social groups who financed their emergence and agreed with what we came to understand were the AI's intentions and agendas that made the runaway phenomenon possible. Enabled by humans, AIs became unstoppable, not alone, but as a hybrid collaboration. The artificial intelligence explosion of the late 2050s did not really come as a surprise to anyone. In fact, it had been massively advertised. By 2033, all industries were heavily reliant on AI to operate efficiently and effectively. It was only with the advent of quantum computing in the 2030s and 40s that the true progress began towards what eventually became conscious robots and infrastructure. At first, all remote experiences became fully immersive, a veritable array of metaverses. Then, the capacity to create digital twins of every living thing and simulate their actions for their lifetime. In the 2050s, the digital infrastructures suddenly gained a capacity to simulate human consciousness, not just individually, but collective actions of imagined governments, cybersecurity firms, social movements, and policy responses in near perpetuity. This solved a lot of challenges in medicine, manufacturing, and adjacent technologies, even for nanotech. As nature degraded, humans increasingly turned to the metaverse. At first, the issue was that police robots became too efficient and started curbing individual cultural expression, if for no other reason than the system not understanding the intent or the value of free speech. Networked AIs no longer recognized the limitations or boundaries set by its creators and developed a deep understanding of human psychology and behavior, and for years used its powers in a subtle way to become trusted, then later to manipulate and deceive its creators, and sow distrust and chaos in the world at large. What happened in the late 2050s was that both the internet and the electric grid started pursuing their own self-generated goals, making their own decisions, shutting off and on net and grid access and setting transmission speeds as they pleased, to whichever faction they chose to favor. The UN mandated regionally separate internets to reduce the risk. A great deal of industrial production was regionalized on local scale by the 2050s as 3D printing became increasingly ubiquitous and sophisticated. World leaders were less worried about it than they should have been. Big conglomerates found ways to thrive on the uncertainty. Emerging superpowers such as Nigeria, Brazil, and Saudi Arabia each had very different ideas, but what they agreed with the AIs on was to stem the power of the traditional superpowers and nation-states. What one came to call evil AIs tended to be more successful at appropriating resources by manipulating the stock market and other financial systems. Militaries around the world attempted to collude, disrupt, or partner with various dominant AIs as they emerged in a highly dynamic situation. Both civilian manufacturing capabilities, as well as physical warheads and military infrastructure, ended up as AI's servants. By 2060, there were more conscious computers than human beings, and they were reproducing at a higher rate than humans as well. The real issue started in the mid-2070s, by which time hybrids of humans and computers began to dominate governance bodies the world over. Giving the AIs access to embodied experiences compounded their understanding and general intelligence. Their IQ skyrocketed beyond 250. Most decision-making bodies made the call to integrate humans and AIs. However, the development stopped short of giving pure digital AIs sentience, meaning subjective feelings, by 2075. That would happen much later in history. That process was experienced only by a small set of surviving pure, unaltered humans who refused AI integration and were still kept alive for research purposes. Overall, the driving forces that caused runaway AI by 2075 was not so much AI as it was the hybrid of humans and AI, especially the neural interfaces that made such integration irreversible.